So it's payday today for many Brits, and you might be seeing a difference in your pay packet thanks to the government's 2p cut to national insurance. But are we actually better off?
Well, Treasury Minister Gareth Davies joins us now. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. I mean, obviously, you know, it's good news for people. I'm sure people will be grateful to see that in their pay packet. But when we bear in mind what's happening elsewhere with tax, the freeze in tax thresholds, we know that people are paying more in taxes now than when you won the last election. So it's still a difficult time for people, isn't it?
Well, hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. You're right. We've been through an incredibly difficult period, which has meant that the government's had to step in with quite a significant amount of support through the COVID pandemic and then essentially paying 50% of people's energy bills. So we believe in reducing that debt, and that's led to some difficult decisions, as I say, on taxation. But I'm really pleased that today, because we've turned a corner and because inflation has reduced from 11 to 4%, we're in a position where we can actually cut taxes for 27 million people. And as you say, if people go online and look at their pay slips or go on the HMRC pay calculator tool, they can see how much extra they're going to get. Put simply, if they're on an average salary of around £35,000 a year, they'll see about £450 extra. But we've been clear we want to go further than this, and that's why we've got to stick to the plan.
Yeah, although, I mean, just to pick you up on that, because the Institute for Fiscal Studies estimates that once you factor in those tax freezes, then the average earner would only be saving £130 a year instead of that £450 you mentioned.
Well, I've not seen that specific analysis, but I can tell you that on the thresholds, we've actually brought 3 million people out of paying any tax at all by increasing the personal allowances. So you can earn in this country £1,000 a month without paying any tax at all. And so it depends on what point in time you take. Like I said, I'm not being, I'm not denying that we've had to make difficult decisions on tax over the recent years because of the amount of money we've had to spend to support people. But now we're in a position where we've turned a corner. Our plan has worked to cut inflation in half to 4%, more than half, by the way. And so that's enabled us to be able to cut taxes. And as I say, we want to go further, but it's absolutely critical that we stick with the plan that we have in place, which has worked up to now.
Yeah, because how are those tax cuts, the potential tax cuts, how would they be paid for? Because there is this suggestion that actually you're not quite being honest about the trade-off here, that there would have to be a cut in public spending to pay for the tax cuts.
Well, the OBR, who adjudicate and assess the government's plans, have been very clear that public spending on public services will increase by some £85 billion over the period to 28-29. So public sector pay is actually going to increase according to the OBR on our spending plans. But it's because of the action that we've taken on inflation and to manage our public finances in a way that allows us to cut tax, that we have additional headroom. We had additional headroom at the last autumn statement to be able to do what we're doing today, which is a huge tax cut for workers across the country.
The OBR are also the group that said we're going to have a sort of a post-war high in terms of tax burden as well, though, aren't they?
Well, again, I'm not denying that we've had to make some difficult decisions on tax because we had incredibly high debt caused by the support that we provided during COVID. You'll remember the furlough scheme, and during the energy spike last year, we paid 50% of people's energy bills. And as Conservatives, we believe that it's not right that we have very high debt. We have to get that down. Yeah. But when we can, we will cut taxes, and that's what we're doing today. Can
we talk about something one of our colleagues has written to the Chancellor about, and he was talking about it on our show on Monday. It's a major issue with child benefit. He's written to the Chancellor asking him to look at the rules on child benefit. I think we've got a little soundbite. This is from Martin Lewis.
You start to lose child benefit when one earner hits £50,000 of income, and you lose it totally when one earner hits £60,000 of income. So what that means is you could have two neighbours, both two-parent families, one where one of them earns £60,000 and the other doesn't earn anything, they don't get child benefit. And then next-door neighbours both earn £49,000, so that's a total of £98,000 of income, they get full child benefit.
I mean, as Martin paints out there, that is blatantly unfair and is clearly an issue. Is that something that the Chancellor is going to look at to address that? Because a single-parent family, we can understand, would need that child benefit probably more than two parents together.
Well, if you just look at the last autumn statement, we increased in-work benefits, for example, by some 6.7%. So benefits have increased quite significantly.
We're talking about this
over the last
specific
year.
example, though, that Martin outlined.
I'll need to look into the specific example in more detail.
From what you've
before I
heard
can give you
Martin
a
describe
proper
there,
answer.
though, just because I know we don't have a lot of time, you can see why that would be something that could actually be sorted out quite quickly, and that would help single-parent families to improve that disparity.
Well, the principle that we operate on is that we want a fair system, we want to reward work, and when it comes to benefits, we want to see that increase in a way that is, rewarding of work. And if there's ever any unfairness, we will address that. But I'd need to take that specific example away before I can give you a proper answer.
Can we pick up with you with something else that's in the news? NHS consultants have rejected the government pay offer. They voted against this 4.95% pay rise, saying it doesn't go far enough. What happens next with this? Because we know that all of these strikes are just meaning longer waiting lists. They're costing more money in the long run. Will the government get back round the table to sort this out?
Well, you're completely right. These strikes have had a huge impact on patients. I think since December 2022, some 1.3 million appointments have been rescheduled because of industrial action. Now, we put forward to NHS consultants, who, by the way, we completely respect and save lives every day, but we put forward a very fair and proportionate pay offer of 4.95%, which the BMA have very narrowly, just by 1%, rejected. And so we urge them to come back to the table to continue negotiations. This offer was on the back of weeks of negotiations with the BMA. And we know that, I've already outlined the impact strikes have had, but we know what the NHS can do when there aren't strikes. Last November, there was no strikes that month, the first month for a year without strikes. And the NHS reduced the backlog of waiting list appointments by 95,000.
So solving this on both sides would be in everyone's best interest, won't it?
It's very important.
It's absolutely critical that the BMA get back to the table and accept what is a very fair offer, and that we ask them to call off the strikes and put patients first, because we need to work together to get appointments down.
We're going to have to leave it there, but we appreciate your time this morning, Gareth Davies. Thanks for joining us.